Welcome to our third episode of Northeast Alabama Sports Live. I am your host, Mark Everett Kelly, and I'd like to thank our sponsors. First, the Cattle Stampede restaurant over here in Fort Payne. You come down, you got a great buffet. They have steak, they got pork chops, they got ribs, they got corn, they have mashed potatoes, they have gravy. They even have okra, which Northerners really don't like okra. But you have it there if you want to eat it. Then you have great dessert, great service, great staff. The Cattle Stampede over here in Fort Payne. If you're on 59, it's the first Fort Payne exit. You can't miss it, the Cattle Stampede restaurant. I'd also like to thank our other sponsor, Fire Up Network over in Canada. They are putting us out over 200 different platforms so we can be seen throughout the world. Kelly and I am here at Fort Payne Stadium for our latest edition of Northeast Alabama Sports Live. We have looked at the first 7 games, 2024 Fort Payne football season, in our first 2 episodes, ending with the Wildcats' 42-7 dominant win over Buckhorn. Dominant by, score. They actually got outgained in that game, but when you win by 35 points, you win by 35 points. Entering the game against Gadsden City, this was their white whale, if we're going to talk about historic meaning. To Captain Ahab, the white whale was what he was searching for and what gave his life meaning when he caught it. For Fort Payne, their 0-6 record against Gadsden City heading into this game was their white whale. They knew if they beat Gadsden City, then they would have a leg up in the region and pretty much, although it wouldn't be official, have clinched the region for the first time in Chris Elmore's 7 years as head coach. Now, Coach Elmore didn't coach all 6 of those games. He had coached 3 of them, and they were 0-3 in those games. And they were outscored, I believe, by 115 to 51 during those games. But during the 6 overall games, they were outscored 219 to 99. So Gadsden City pretty much had a dominant effect over Fort Payne. However, as we've seen earlier in the year, the 2024 Fort Payne Wildcats were a little different breed. And coming out here against their chief rival, Dax Varner had a great game. 13 for 18, only 144 yards, but 4 touchdown passes and no interceptions. It started in the first quarter when he hit Carter Tinker with a 6-yard touchdown pass. Then they got the ball back again, and they went right down the field again. And then you have Ryan Shankles catching a 7-yard touchdown pass to give them a 14-0 lead. Gadsden City kicked a field goal, cut it to 14-3, and then you had Fort Payne's offense get right back on track. Barnador found Carter Tinker again, make it 21-6 at the end of the first half. However, Gadsden City got a field goal right before the half expired. So we have a 21-6 lead for Payne going into the half. Now in the third quarter and fourth quarter, Fort Payne's defense came to play at significant moments. You had a 13-play drive and a 15-play drive for Gadsden, end up in no points. The 13-play drive, a touchdown, I believe a 69-yard touchdown pass was called back because of a penalty. And then their 15-play drive in the fourth quarter was ended on a big-time sack of their quarterback. And that pretty much ended the opportunity for Gadsden City to win. They scored two late touchdowns to make the score a little bit respectable. But after Dax Varnador threw his 4th touchdown pass of the game, this one to Connor Kingsley to make it 28-6. Kingsley's 2nd straight game with a touchdown reception, by the way. And Fort Payne was on their way to a 28-18 win over their big rival. Now, beating Gadsden City was arriving at a level that now they know their season is in their own hands. Now, Fort Payne is clearly at a level where they're being talked about now. After starting 0-2, they now have a 5-game win streak, and they stand at 5-2 after their big win against Gadsden City here. Next up, they travel to Hazel Green, another, I don't want to say it's Batman villain territory, but Hazel Green is kind of like something that happens when you eat too much. You know, I had too much steak. I'm feeling Hazel Green this morning. I tried. After their big win over Gadsden City, Fort Payne came here to Hazel Green. With a win, they would clinch the region. And Fort Payne certainly didn't waste any time getting that done. They blitzed them early, wound up taking a 35-0 lead. You had 7 different players score touchdowns. You had Dax Farnador continue his unbelievable play, throwing 5 touchdown passes. You had Carter Tinker scoring another defensive touchdown. You had Brandon Oliver having another game with 2 touchdown receptions. You had Riker Shankles having a game with 2 touchdown receptions. You had Carter Blaylock scoring a touchdown. You had Caden Adams scoring a touchdown. So a complete effort by Fort Payne. And the only reason why Hazel Green kind of made it close is because Coach Elmore, up now 49-7 at halftime, got a chance to play a lot of the younger players in the second half. And Hazel Green scored a couple of touchdowns in the second half to make it look respectable. But Fort Payne dominated this game. And they now were going home to finish their regular season home schedule with a game against Lee Huntsville. After putting up a season-high 56 points against Hazel Green, Fort Payne came home to play their final home game of the year, where 20 players would be making their last appearance here at Fort Payne Stadium. And they turned it into a party. Another 50-point output, giving them now 101 points in their last 2 wins, and increasing their win streak to 7 games. A 55-13 whitewashing of Lee Huntsville. Not only did you have their offense, like Dax Farnador, who had scored 5 touchdown passes, or thrown, as most educated sportscasters would say, thrown 5 touchdown passes in their win against Hazel Green. 3 touchdown passes in this game, giving him 19 for over 1,300 yards and no interceptions during the Wildcats' 7-game win streak. Then you had his partner in crime, Brandon Oliver, who were both names of the North-South All-Star team, with 32 catches for over 450 yards during that same stretch. Not only did their offense put up great numbers, and you know that with Connor Hughes and Hayden Chambers, their kicking game is already elite. Their defense, a 55-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown, and a 20-yard punt block return for a touchdown. Those were players, Levi Crow and Hunter Goza. They came to play as well. And you had Elijah Bollock scoring his first touchdown of the year, rushing the ball, as well as Carter Blaylock scoring a rushing touchdown. So as the season was winding down, you now had a 7-game win streak. You had the final home game here at Fort Payne Stadium as they got ready to go to Pelham for their final regular season game of the year before the big time and their playoff games here at Fort Payne Stadium against Pell City and Homewood. Once again, 20 seniors playing their final game here. It turned into a party atmosphere. 55-13 over Lee Huntsville. 7 straight wins for these Wildcats. After combining for 101 points in blowout victories over Hazel Green and Lee Huntsville, Fort Payne finished their 2024 regular season right here at Pelham. Now, Coach Elmore used to talk to them about, hey, you guys got to come and play every game. Don't take any team lightly. Don't let up after a big win. Don't kind of play down to your competition. And maybe if that fear was there, it certainly wasn't there for long. Dax Farnador continued his unbelievable string of touchdown passes, throwing 2 more, giving him 17 in his last 5 games. And Brandon Oliver was unbelievable. 9 catches, 165 yards, setting a game and season records with 66 receptions for the year. But perhaps the play of the game turned in the second half. Up 22-3, Pelham looked like it was going in for a touchdown to cut it to 22-10. However, Fort Payne caused a fumble. Carter Tinker picked it up and ran 90 yards for a touchdown. All of a sudden, 22-10 is now 29-3. Game over. Game over. Regular season over. Fort Payne now with their 8th straight win as they get ready to host Pell City for a home playoff game. All right, so just to kind of introduce you to something that's a little more basic, how I feel kind of each game of the season went. We're going to call this the Marks Board of Logic, okay? And this is going to be my rating system, all right? So if you have like the squiggly lines kind of here, that's the mentally deficient mark. Like you don't want that. That's probably the worst one. This is the depressed mark, so that would be like not very good, but not as bad as the mentally deficient. Then you have the indifferent mark, like he doesn't care either way. Then you have the chilling mark, which is kind of like a half smile. And then you have the fiesta mark, like life can't get any better. Okay, so we go game by game here on the schedule going through the regular season. All right, so the Scottsboro game, like 31-6, like that's pretty much the mentally deficient mark. So we're going to give that, okay? Then at Gordonsville, that's more of the depressed, like confused mark. So I would say that would be, you know, a little sad, a little frown, right? Then we have the Southside game, which I think we have the fiesta mark because that was just, you know, you got a 55-yard field goal in a hurricane. You got to be happy about that one, okay? Then you have the Mae Jemison, that's another fiesta, okay? We're up, maybe we're in 49-6, you know, offense explodes, Dax has a big game, Brandon Oliver is back, you know, they're at full throttle on offense, defense holds them without a touchdown. Again, it's another fiesta. Mortimer Jordan, that's kind of like a chilling, you know, like a little half smile, 16-6, defense comes up big, the offense scores a couple touchdowns, but they, again, now they're on 3-game win streak. So, not great, but good. Okay? Then you have the Buckhorn. Now, they got outgained in Buckhorn, so that was kind of like, even though they won 42-7, that would be kind of like an indifferent mark. Because the game, they win by 35 points, and you get outgained. It's just a little confusing, but still not like thrilled, you know, nice, you know. Not thrilling, but nice. So it's maybe the indifferent mark. Like it's kind of like a almost indifferent, like half chilling mark. The Gadsden City, now that's like a 2 fiesta mark. Okay, because not only were they 0-6 going into that game against them, but that pretty much gave them the region. Okay, and they had 2 drives of Gadsden City where Gadsden City had 15 play and a 13 play drive where they came away with no points. So the defense made big plays. Bend but don't break defense. That's a double fiesta because that's a region title right there. And you get Hazel Green again. We're going to give a double fiesta there because that clinched the region. And you scored 56 points. You're up 49-7 at halftime. All right. Dax throws 5 touchdown passes. All right. Let's see. Who scored a touchdown that game that didn't normally score? I think Fisher Abbott had a touchdown. You know, when you say Fisher Abbott, it's like you throw the line into the ocean. All right. Then you have Lee Huntsville. That's another. So we got 3 double fiestas because it's another 55-13 game. Okay, you have Levi Crow scoring a defensive touchdown. You have a couple other Hunter Gozer scoring a defensive touchdown or I think a block punt touchdown. Not sure which one. Then you have Brandon Oliver and Dax doing the things they always do. Last game for 20 seniors played. Double fiesta, 55 points. It's 101 points in 2 games. And then you have the Pelham game. All right? You have Carter Tinker with a big defensive touchdown return when they're up 22-3. It's light. And they clinch, 8 straight wins. I would give that one, we're going to say a fiesta and a half, kind of. I don't even know how to draw that. So this is kind of the rating system for all the games, starting with the mentally deficient, going all the way down to double fiesta. I think they did pretty good. Thank you for joining us at Northeast Alabama Sports Live. I am your host, Mark Everett Kelly. I would like to thank our sponsors, starting with the Cattle Stampede restaurant over here in Fort Payne. They have a great buffet. They have any types of they got steak, they got pork chops, they got baked beans, they have ribs, they have okra, which again, Northerners do not like okra, but they have corn, they have great desserts. If you're on 59, it's the first Fort Payne exit, the Cattle Stampede restaurant. You can't miss it. Great place to come and eat. Also, our other sponsor, the Fired Up Network, who is sending us out over 200 different platforms, the Fired Up Network up in Toronto. So we looked at games 7 through 10 here in Fort Payne's football season of 2024. Heading into their playoff game against Pell City, the Wildcats now have an 8-game win streak. Please join us Friday at the Cattle Stampede restaurant, where we will go over Fort Payne's playoff run. Come down, get something to eat, come sit in the back, ask questions, we'll have a good time. 5:30 at the Cattle Stampede restaurant here in Fort Payne. We will see you